Just a bit of housekeeping for anybody who's new. Kind of usual Zoom call format, really. Lots of people here, so just keeping ourselves on mute, at least initially, so that we can hear the wonderful Dominic talking. And of course, if there's any kind of questions along the way, we are going to do a Q&A. So feel free to raise your hand, or you can also, if you don't want to kind of come on live, you can also just kind of leave a comment in the comments box down at the bottom, and then we'll kind of have some space for any questions. But it's always nice to have people come on live and join us as well. So if you do want to come and do that, then do join us. And I'll tell you a little bit about the summit, I think, because it's always quite nice, especially, I guess, I don't know whether you know a lot about it, Dominic, but basically, for me, my journey has been all about kind of self-rediscovery. And I kind of call it that because I don't like the idea of self-help anymore, because self-help, to me, feels like it's assuming that we're broken. And I think that's kind of how many of us arrive at this journey, is kind of thinking that we're broken. And so I now sort of say self-rediscovery for me is about seeing deeper about who we really are. But I've also come to see that it's also about kind of exploring and playing with who we are in our humanness as well. So that's why I think this conversation is super interesting. And we've heard from lots of different speakers, which is really cool. And so I just kind of invite people to share their stories and what they've learned and the wisdom that they've kind of seen along the way. And it's my hope that kind of then inspires people to hear their own truth, which is kind of something that I've heard you say as well. So yeah, we're live every Friday. If anybody has any questions, I'm always here, and likewise we can address those here. And I do jump on in the Self-Rediscovery Facebook group as well to kind of, any insights that I have, or sharing with other people. It's a really nice community going on in there, so it's really cool. But I just thought I'd start off by introducing you for anybody who might not be familiar. So I'm super excited to have you here. And yeah, when I heard you speak the other month, I just knew that I kind of wanted you on the summit, when you started talking about how we're all living in a playful co-creation between our divine wisdom and our human desire. And I was like, ooh, that's interesting. That sounds different. And that kind of is what this summit is about, I guess. It's who we are in our wisdom and playing in our humanness. So I think that journey's kind of often arrived at in reverse, with us kind of figuring it out in an outside-in way. We feel lost, we feel broken, we try to change things, and I've come to see that actually it's not that way at all. It's inside out. So when we rediscover that we're wisdom and we've got everything that we need within us already, that's almost like a great foundation to start from, to be able to then play in who we want to be. And it feels like that's very much what you're saying. And for me, that makes self-rediscovery more of a choice than a need. And I think that's what's nice about it. And it becomes more of a fun game, or at least that's how it feels to me. So I'm going to formally introduce you, and then we'll go into a more human conversation. So your bio talks about your purpose is to awaken greatness, which I love. As a certified executive coach, you fulfill this purpose by partnering with individuals to point them back towards the unlimited potential and possibility of who they really are. By accessing their own innate wisdom, clients are supported to take on professional and personal goals that are most important to them. In 2008, following a 20-year corporate career, you founded HR Possibilities to provide 3 core services: individual executive coaching, team coaching, and training for leaders. And you work with leading-edge global organizations across a variety of industries. You're a professional certified coach through the International Coach Federation, and you've been awarded 2 PRISM Awards for excellence in coaching within organizations. And you're also grounded in the 3 principles and certified as a transformative coach through Michael Neal's Coach Academy. So yeah, that's the kind of the formal bit done. So I'm just going to kind of hand it over to you, really, because and I've got loads of questions, but but normally I just start off by inviting people to just share a little bit about their own personal journey, because I think people love a shared story. So I just wondered if you could start by telling us a little bit about your own kind of personal journey with kind of manifestation or the law of attraction, or what you saw that felt different, and how you kind of arrived at the understanding that you share or point to.
Yeah, very good. Well, thank you. And I'm excited to be here on this, to be talking about the thing that I'm probably most excited about talking about nowadays, which is creation, and how we are creating our own reality, and we are creating our own life experience. And more than that, we are literally creating the things, the conditions, the circumstances in our life. By the way, I'm aware as I say that you could be listening on various levels. So why don't we sort of, just to get some alignment, I'm actually not talking about you. So whoever you think you are, that's not who I am saying is creating anything. So it's a foundation in this conversation. It's really important to have this conversation make any sense is to really actually have some sort of an inquiry into who are you, right? Because if what you believe is that you are this physical body, or you are this body with the psychology and some thinking and all of that, then you really are very limited in your ability to create anything, right? So there's some sort of early inquiry about who are we talking about when we say that you create your own reality. So want to park that, and we may not get too far into that, but please note that's essential to this conversation. And I think the other thing that's really important in the listening in this conversation is we will not be talking about how you create your own reality. We're meaning how to do it. Oh, I hope Dominic can explain how I'm going to be able to create my own reality. What really we're going to distinguish is how you are already doing that, how you are always already doing that. And from an understanding, a deeper understanding of what goes on as you are already creating your reality and everything in your life, then that's kind of cool to know. Because if you know that, then what it brings about is a little bit more intentionality, potentially, around what is created and what does get manifest in your life. So I might pause there. I don't know if that's a good place, or if there's anything else.
Yeah, I love what you've just kind of summed up. It's kind of what I heard, when I've been listening to you so far, and I love that you kind of say, it's not the you that you think is the you that's creating.
Important,
And
yes.
that's something that I've kind of really come to see this week, even more and more, is that, like, yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. You summed it up really. It's like
Mhm.
who we think we are kind of isn't necessarily who we think. It's for me, it feels like the word I would use to describe is like there's this wisdom or natural intelligence that's kind of beyond it. So I don't know what
So
you.
that's you.
Yeah,
What you just said is there's this wisdom or natural intelligence, not separate from you,
yeah,
that in fact is more who you are than who you think you are.
yeah,
Which is here, right here, kind of talking to each other right now. So as you realize more of who you are, the power to create increases, right?
yeah.
The less you see of who you are, the less power there is to create, the less.
Yeah, I love that. And as I said at the start, I think it feels more of, I don't know, for me, it just feels more freeing to realize that, because it's like, it's not so important then. It's like, well, I
Mhm.
can, whatever I create is perfect. I don't know. Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about kind of your personal journey with manifestation. Like, how did you
Okay.
come to this realization?
Yeah, so I think, and this is probably an important preface or whatever, and an acknowledgement for me, is that a lot of what I'm talking about is rooted and grounded in the teachings of Abraham Hicks.
Mm.
And you it's unlikely that I could do ever an interview or write anything without quoting Abraham Hicks from one place or another. So a lot of what I'm speaking about is in that. And the beginnings of that probably became, I came across it by picking up some book more than 10 years ago. And this was at a time where I was early in my self-employment. So I'd left the corporate world where I held a VP HR position, and then I left the corporate world, and then I was self-employed. I thought what I was going to do was become a consultant, an HR consultant, and then very quickly I sort of discovered that, wow, what the part that I'm really interested in and passionate about is coaching and working with individuals and people, bringing out more potential like that. So as I went into that, there's of course the whole bit about self-employment, and especially if I've been working for 20 years. And so now here I am self-employed. The last role I held was this executive position. So if you go from that to zero in terms of what your income is, there's a good gap. Yeah. By the way, zero, that used to have a company car with it, used to have stock. There was a whole bunch of stuff, right? And then you go to zero. And so, so this idea of creating something was really sort of important for me. And early on, I came across the teachings of Abraham, and Abraham is a channeled teaching. Esther Hicks channels a collective consciousness called Abraham, and so that's what that is. And so one book that they've written called Ask and It Is Given, just that title will tell you a lot, right? So ask and it is given. However, you can, for learning more about that, you can go on YouTube and you can take any subject you have, like if you want to be in a relationship, if you're interested in money, if you're interested in business, all you have to do is type in Abraham Hicks relationship, Abraham Hicks career, Abraham Hicks money, Abraham Hicks anything, and you will get loads and loads of talks, right? And so sort of get that perspective. I find the teachings live in that presence far more powerful than anything you read in a book, which feels a little bit more static, right? But when I came across that, it then was rooted in my actual life experience around creating my business, because I began to build my business in a way that I'll say was attracted. And to this day, I think if you go to today, the way I operate my coaching business is with zero time, zero attention, zero focus on client acquisition, business development, finding clients, sourcing clients. I spend no time on that. And I'm not saying that it's wrong to spend time on that. This part's pivotal. If you love that, that will really be helpful. But for me, early on, I realized I didn't like that. By the way, what's funny is despite an early career in sales, because my career was in sales, so I kind of and I was pretty successful in sales, right? So, but I didn't like that, and so I built a business and to continue to this day, with no attention, no time, no investment in the area of business development. And so then most people will say to me, wow, how do you get your clients? And my answer to that is that they come to me, so that it's attracted. And so that part of it, the way that that's created, is all done living this. So yeah. I'll pause again.
That's so cool. Yeah, what's I don't even know where to go. There's so many questions that I have. I think one question that kind of comes to mind is that, because for me, having dived into self-help so much, it really felt like there was a lot of work to do at one point. And now I see that, and I hear a lot in the principles, there's nothing to do. So I'm kind of wondering how far it is that, there is nothing to do. And I remember when I first came to the principles, I was like, oh great, well, there's nothing to do. I'll just sit here and do nothing. And then I remember hearing Dickens say, well, yeah, there's nothing to do to be psychologically okay. I was like, oh, right, okay. So I can still play in what I want to do, right?
Very good.
So I don't know whether you can speak to that a little bit.
Well, that's really good because, well, let's look at where that comes from. By the way, the teachings of Abraham, I kind of like was following for a long time. And then in partway through that journey, I came across the principles. The principles were really helpful in my deepening my understanding of Abraham Hicks' law of attraction and all of that. I will say that prior to that, my understanding was more juvenile. So my understanding of what law of attraction was and creation was more juvenile. It had more to do with the stuff that you would see if you watch the video, The Secret, the DVD, The Secret, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So my understanding was that all you do is wish. Just kind of close your eyes and wish, right? And then things will show up, right? So that's my understanding of what that was. And so and then they had these practices, you need vision boards, you need all this stuff, and that's how you manifest things.
That's what I've got written down. I was like, is it all vision boards and affirmations?
yeah. And it's in fact none of that, right? But there's a good reason why that kind of comes about, or why people do that. It's an attempt to take something that is true and then turn it into a practice. And see, so I kind of saw it the same way. But then when the principles came, what I really love about the three principles is the rigor in the three principles. So here I was following and kind of learning something that was really, I could see was true. It was true in my life experience. Then the principles come around, and then the principles, as I listened to the 3P, that what it spoke to is that there's nothing to do. It says it so powerfully and so deeply that there is nothing to do to be who you are. Well, is that the most obvious thing in the world? Like, isn't it? There is nothing to do to be who you are. Whether you do or don't do anything, you will still be who you are, right? So this who you really are requires no practice. There's not a practice. There's not a doing to it. And in fact, I love the principles because they're allergic to practices. I love that.
Yeah.
It's like an allergicness to it, to anything that has to do with ritual or practice or any of that. So this was the best thing that ever happened to me. And what I say is that when I say I attracted the principles as a teaching.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because it came around to clean up all the BS that sat there in what I thought was going on around creation. And so now, because the issue with Abraham is that Abraham has no problem talking to you where you're at. And if you listen to any of the teachings, if you sit in the chair and you ask Abraham a question about how you could win the lottery, they will proceed to answer your question using the laws of the universe as the explanation. So it's so easy with Abraham to think, oh my God, there's a practice. I need to go do this practice. But they'll just speak to you where you're at. With 3P, it went to it sort of had me back to Abraham in a way that, wait a minute, that can't be right. So what I was hearing before, right, where Abraham might speak about they have a million processes, right? They're not shy. So they got lots of processes. But where I was hearing that, and then I was thinking, well, wait a minute, that can't be right. You can't need a process for this, because what I know is true from 3P is that a process is not required. And then yet I listen to Abraham, who I also hear as true, and I don't understand why they would say process. Well, what most people do at that point, and I've spoken with, people in these communities, what most people do at that point is they choose. That's what most people have done. would be the easy path. I would go, oh my God, I just found out what was true, so I can dismiss this crap.
Which is what
And
I did for a time. Yeah, I was like, oh
I can
great, I'm just
dismiss
gonna
it
sit here. Yeah.
and leave it behind. And now I know what's true. But that didn't sit well with me,
No.
because what it felt to me was like, this is true. And then there's this other thing that I've learned, which is true. And so what that forced me to do was, what is more deeply true? What is more deeply true in all of this? And so that's that's what I ended up sort of staying with, both, refusing to drop any. And by the way, my more recent dilemma like this is I've come across non-duality.
Yeah.
So non-duality shows up. There's another thing, right? So then all of a sudden non-duality shows up, which even challenges the maybe
Yeah.
parts of 3P. It
Because
even
we know
challenges
nothing. Like
it challenges the inside out idea, it challenges all of that. And so again, my initial is like, well, just dismiss it, right? except then you listen and you listen, you go, well, wait a minute, but something's true about that.
Yeah, and what I love in that is it's kind of like, well, what's true for us? That's what it feels like to me. It's like, well, I think, yeah, it feels like, well, what's true for me right now, I guess, in a way. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, I interrupted your flow there.
Well,
But it feels like there's a sense of kind of a deep listening involved in this.
yeah, what's hard is to how how can they both be true? How can they all be true?
Mm,
And mostly what you'll find, and this is what I found, is that then what you see and realize is that you have misunderstanding.
yeah,
So it's either misunderstanding of one or misunderstanding of the other. And so there's, out of a misunderstanding, you call one wrong and you call the other one right. And then you've kind of sort of lost the benefit of what could be available in going deeper into all of it. So I'm a bit of a geek in that way, and that going into deeper into all of it, it has been my thing, I guess.
yeah, yeah. I think that's cool. That I'm kind of the same. I think we're constantly exploring, and the funny part is that really we don't really know what's true at all in a way. So it's like, well, we'll just play with it. And for me, that's what it feels like. It almost feels like there's this kind of knowing who we are and then dancing in our humanness. I don't know if
Because your humanness, our humanness, is the tiniest aspect of who we are, right? So
yeah,
the humanness is the tiniest aspect of who we are, and who you are is far more than that, right? Now, when it comes to creation, this is important to note, because if all you see that you are is this humanness, then we don't have much to work with.
yeah, yeah,
If you're going to be creating anything, there's not a lot to work with in the humanness. So there is the more of that is expressing through this humanness, and that's where all the power to create is. When you look at the humanness, in fact, that is also your creation.
mm,
Who you think you are creating.
yeah,
This so that when the moment you open your mouth to describe who you are and what you like, and as you open your mouth to describe what they are like, who they are and what they are like, and as you describe what this world is like and what this life is like, what's not always apparent is that you've actually now created that.
yeah,
So you are the source of that. And one of the earliest sources of pieces that you're creating is this you, which is relative to all of that.
yeah,
So it begins with who you are relative now to your business and relative to those others and relative to this virus that's going on and all of that. So the creation begins, we need a point of perspective, and that point of perspective starts here with who I think who I am, and that's the first creation by which I can then perceive and experience the rest of all that I'm creating.
Wow. Yeah, that's going to take a little while to sink in.
Mhm.
But I can feel it. I'm like, okay. Actually, it's interesting because we've got a question from Michael. He says, can you say a bit more about who you are?
Okay, so the metaphor I gave at one time is using the idea of a Lego figure or whatever. It's you could play a game with Legos, and some of what you might do is create a little person in a world like that. So when you look at that, there are two perspectives, and the two perspectives are, there's a you, a kind of and let's call it, for purpose of the metaphor, there is this infinite you that is fully intelligence. It is really infinite intelligence. I'm going to use that as the metaphor of the
Yeah.
you. And then you create this world, and part of the world is that there's this character called you, and it's in there, right? And so now that character called you becomes a business person. With you open up a business and you start to make money and all of that stuff, and you can play in that world. And so if I were to ask you, so who's creating that? That when you look at that, to think that the character is creating anything would be a misunderstanding.
Hmm.
In fact, what you can see is that and Dickon Bettinger said this, I love this quote. He said, that which is created cannot create.
Yeah, I love that.
So that which is created cannot create. So you've created that Lego person, which is only the tiniest aspect or expression of you. Like, who you are is so much more than that, so much more intelligent than that, so much more knowing than that. And you've created this Lego person to play in this world. And that which is created cannot create. So the little Lego figure can't actually create anything. So in order for creation to happen, it is in fact sourced in all that you are.
Hmm.
All that you are is in that creation. And that little Lego figure will do things. It might move some things around and do some stuff. It will experience that world, because unfortunately you can't. You're not small enough. You couldn't fit in it. But if you focus into that physical being, you can then experience that which is being created.
Hmm.
So if you take the infinite eternal you and focus into that finite being, you are able to experience aspects of all that you are. But in the end, you're only just experiencing yourself. You're experiencing yourself, your own imagination, all of that. But it's a really good show, because it really appears as real, and it will be a satisfying life experience. But it's all happening in that way. So
Yeah,
that, I don't know if that's helpful, but
it is. And I'm kind of seeing that, sometimes that looks like we're creating this Lego world of anxiety or depression. And sometimes that looks like we're creating this Lego world of exciting, fun things. This kind of, I don't know, is that kind of, am I getting it?
well, and yeah, that's cool. There's something important about that too, in that yeah, the whole, we live in a world of nothing but pure possibility.
Mm.
So your life and your experience has all possibility in it. It is really in a blank state of all potential and possibility.
Mm.
And the thing is that what is in there is bad stuff, horrible things, you know, dissatisfaction, hopelessness. This is all there. This is your life.
Mm.
What's also in your life is joy, possibility, abundance, all of that. But all of it exists. The potential and possibility for all of it exists.
Yeah.
And so the question is, where are you focused? Because however you're focused will pop out of that and become bigger. Right. So, and that's the creation you get to do. You get all the paint colors, all the all the possibilities, and then what you focus on pops out of that and becomes part of your art, part of the creation. Right.
Yeah. No, I love that. I'm actually reading, I don't know whether this was something that you recommended, a book called The Magician's Way. And that's kind of talking about that. I think it's William Whitecloud. And that's kind of talking about the power of kind of focus. And but what comes to mind there is the kind of positive thinking again in the self-help world, and how that's kind of become like, it's almost become a fear that we will focus on something bad and we'll manifest that. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, in all of those things, there's a reason they've said it.
Mm.
Right. So there's some element of truth in what they say. Right. If you Tony Robbins, there's something there that's got some element of truth. But if for many of you who have gone on to study other things, you start to go beyond that, or you start to see more than just that, right? And so I don't dismiss any of it, and it's very appropriate for whoever has attracted that. It is very appropriate to them, right?
Mm.
That is a perfect learning for what they need at the time. So from my perspective, I'm not discounting any of those things. Lots of self-help stuff. And the reason I say this is I've actually seen through friends and people that I know who were in addictions, in depressions, in all kinds of stuff, in prison.
Mm.
and then and then to watch them come out, and it's so interesting because they get hooked on something self-help or something that they read, which is about empowerment, which is about you are the creator of your reality. They mean it in a different way, right? And they're like, me, I'm the one, and I do this, and I focus my mind on something and I can create my life. And what's awesome about them is I've watched them take hold of take hold of addictions, take hold of their body. They've, become fitness trainers. They become all kinds of stuff. They do things and they turn their life around, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very helpful, and it takes them this far. And at that point, usually they're interested or open to another idea that is further than that.
Yeah.
But I don't discount what brought them to this place.
Yeah, I think where it's interesting is if you are enjoying that, then that's awesome, right? Because I think as long as you're doing something that you love and is lighting you up, then it's great, because we're having a great human experience at that point. But if it's something that, for me, I was ill with chronic fatigue syndrome when I was diving into self-help, and it felt like I was just searching for a fix, and it didn't feel particularly fun. It felt like it was something I needed to do, if that makes sense. So I think that's where my anti-self-help comes in.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but now
when
I'm
when
starting
you
to.
when you move beyond something, I'm not so quick to denigrate it for I'm only looking to appreciate what it provided.
Mm,
By the way, just as a rule of thumb, that's not a bad thing.
yeah, yeah,
I only appreciate everything I've attracted into my life
yeah,
because that has been essential to the creation, right? And so I do not denigrate anything that's come into my life and brought me to a place where I could hear something more.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And now I'm starting to see that more is like where before I kind of abandoned, meditation or spiritual practice or whatever, because I still love it and enjoy it. It's like, well, I can play with that. That's fun. So, and I do have kind of a natural appreciation. It feels to me like appreciation just kind of bubbles up in the space of a clear mind as well. Um, but yeah, it's interesting to me. There's some kind of resistance there with kind of forced gratitude for because I think I said that on your post, didn't I, yesterday? But I'm staying curious about that, because I know where there's resistance is probably something to be seen. So
Yeah, and so all effort is resistance, right? So
mm,
all effort is resistance, and what that's resisting is really potential.
mm,
There, when you allow life to flow and inspire something, right, then that's just easy. Right?
yeah.
How much effort does anybody put into breathing properly? Anybody putting effort into that? Right? So one of the most important things is to breathe, right? And to get enough oxygen and all of that. How many people work at that? What are your practices around it? This is one of the biggest things, and no one ever does anything about it. We have total faith that there is an intelligence going on. It's our own, we just don't realize, but there is something going on that we can fully trust to let go into, and it will take care of all of that, right? And
Yeah.
your desires are similar, right? So there's something similar about your desires, because then you have a desire for something, to be in a relationship, to have more money, to build a business, to get, serve clients, to make a difference, right? Well, where did this desire come from? If we play this Lego game, does the Lego person, the little stick figure, does that Lego thing have any desire in the game?
Mm,
Sitting in that physical little Lego, there is no desire. It's got nothing. If there is any desire to build a business, make more money, get into a relationship, whatever it is, where is that coming from? It's coming from all that Lego figure is. It is coming from something far greater than you. The
yeah.
feeling of desire is who you really are, desiring to express itself through you.
Yeah, I love that. I think I heard you say a desire for more is a desire for all. And I
And
loved that.
that way of saying it is, again, if you imagine all that you are, wanting to experience who you are,
Yeah.
well, you put it into this little board game or whatever you're doing, automatically this is going to be just a finite, tiniest bit of all that you are. You are so much more than any of that. And this desire to play the game, to do this, build something, build a house, whatever it is it's wanting to do, that desire for that is felt by you.
Mm,
It is felt by you. And oftentimes we feel it as a desire for more. In other words, I want more money, I want a bigger house, I want to be in a relationship. So there's a desire for more. And in fact, it's a desire for all, which is really, it is a desire to experience all that I am.
yeah. Wow.
I want to experience all that I am, which you never will. I mean, you will, but it's going to take 7 billion people and multiple lifetimes. Abraham says, you couldn't experience all that you are in 20 or 30 lifetimes.
Mm,
When you look at who you really are and the desire to express that and experience that, 20 or 30 lifetimes are not enough. So
that's amazing. And I loved it. I loved what you said so much. I was chatting to Phil Goddard about it, and then he said, yeah, but what if your desire is just for hobnobs? I was like, yeah, well, I don't know. So that was quite funny. But no, I really loved when you said that, when I was listening to you before. Yeah, where did we get to with that?
There's some, I think there's probably some questions in the chat. Maybe we can get more specific. This is pretty
Yeah, that would be
general,
cool.
what we're
Yeah.
saying, but I don't know if maybe interacting with people might be
Yeah, for
helpful.
sure. So we do have a couple of questions actually. Tara
And you can
Jane,
also raise your hand in there too, I think, if you
yeah,
want.
does anybody want to come on and ask a question? Because that's, oh, Paul does. Right, okay. I'm gonna unmute you, Paul. There we go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Paul.
Hello, how you doing? You okay? Right, I've got this new headset. I feel like I'm working in a call center, so forgive me if I'm too loud or too quiet.
Can I place my order?
Do you want to go large? Now, listen, I raised my hand without having a question, so I'm just going to roll with this.
Awesome.
This is great. When you initially started talking, I'm thinking this is like listening to myself. I initially was so into the law of attraction, The Secret. You mentioned The Secret. Boom, you had me at that. And then met the 3Ps. I'm like, oh God, that wipes the floor with The Secret. It's either,
Yeah.
it's either
Yep.
or, because The Secret, the 3Ps clearly say, clear your mind, have nothing on your mind, don't focus on anything, and sit in basically nothing, and let wisdom drop into your head, and therefore, you know, take in literally metaphorical terms, do nothing. And I'm like, oh, as hard as The Secret was, doing all these vision boards and affirmations, I kind of enjoyed it. I'm kind of a creative person, so I took the do nothing literally, and I'm like, yeah, nice, great, lovely. There's got to be more to it than this. There's got to be. There's got to be. So I'm loving the fact of like, oh, I haven't got to choose either or.
Right.
And then you hear so much on the 3Ps about having an empty mind. And then you spoke about having a focus, a desire. Now that sounds to me, I know I probably misinterpreted what you said, sounds to me as if you're saying, have something on your mind, a desire on your mind. Am I wrong?
I love, okay, this is really good. You're asking a great question. So thanks, because these are the sorts of questions I had in the beginning that really, that it was clear to me. It's like, okay, well, wait a minute, this is contradicting. One thing's contradicting the other. So I loved the sort of playing with these questions. It's a great question you're asking. So the part about, okay, here, what I came to see is that the three principals in Sydney Banks became very interested, and the big contribution had to do with, these are categories, by the way, they're wrong. We just use metaphors. That's the best we can do. But what Sydney Banks distinguished was formless, spiritual formlessness, right? Now, in the end, what he said was, wow, there's not really formless and form. There's just all, right? So there's an all of it, right? But let's just stick with the metaphor because it was good. He sort of, it was helpful. So he said, and his big discovery was the missing link. What's the missing link? What was the missing link he discovered?
Well,
Thought. So what he discovered was, what he realized was, between formless and form, the communication is first via thought. So this was really important. So what you get from spiritual to manifested, the first movement is via thought, right? So that's kind of cool. And now, where 3P went was, it's all thought, which is absolutely true. It's all thought. And then they went to, I'm really generalizing here, but I'll tell you from the sort of immersion that I was in, was about any time you would attempt to speak about creation and manifestation, your hand slapped saying, stop that. It's all about spiritual. So you need to go back to formless because that's what's really important, right? So you can't talk about out here because everything you got to go back there. And something about that felt funny to me. So what I saw with Abraham and some of the other teachings that I'm in is this is basically the bottom line on that. It says it is all spiritual. So can we get that off the table? It
That's
is
good news.
all.
That's the area I want to focus on, really.
Yeah. So it is all spiritual, right? And who you really are is spiritual. Who you really are is eternal. It is infinite. And here's the deal. Like a lot of stuff gets into, you really have to explore who you are. You really have to understand who you have to get into all that, right? And the part that I would say is that, well, I say it in many ways, but one of the things I say is you have eternity to enjoy who you really are. You will have eternity to enjoy your spiritual nature because it is eternal, right? And you have about 100 years, maybe 50 left to enjoy this particular expression of all that you are. So the pay some attention, I say, pay some attention to this expression, this particular life experience. And that for me is where I became way more interested in creation and this particular expression. Because as we get into this, you can't help but understand more deeply who you are, because there is no separation between the two. This is an aspect of all that you are. But in this aspect, this is the leading edge aspect. This is the furthest most element of your thought and creation is right here. So I've sidetracked your question a bit. So
It's more along the lines of, with the three, I know, like I say, I was heavily into the law of attraction. I still would like to think I was able to desire something. Instead of the three P's have kind of knocked the oomph out of me, I would say.
Oh, got it.
It's great, it's lovely, and I've become very, very calm, but almost a little bit too still and too quiet because I'm scared. Heaven forbid I put something in my mind and think about it, because I'm told not to.
Okay, so that's the desire part. I love that. Okay, so that part, the part about desire can only happen here in the equation between who you really are and this physical manifestation. That feeling of desire only happens here. And because what is that? Because when you go back to all that you are, there is nothing other than all of it.
So will you say the desire element comes from the formless, obviously not the form, not from the Lego creature?
This is where we get to co-creation.
Yeah, I was going to say, I love that. I think I heard you say something about we're always co-creating between divine wisdom and human desire. And I think this is kind of what you're speaking to here, which I loved.
Yeah, co-creation. Because if you take all that I am, that would be all possibility. So where do I go next? What does it matter? I'm all of it. What do I want? Nothing. If you take all that I am, right? But once you focus finite, desire can arise. And the desire, you're right, it can't come from the Lego figure. It can't. It's just a nothing, right? But a better metaphor for this may be, if you are an author writing a story, this metaphor will work better. I'm an author writing a story, and in the story there's a guy called Dominic. And now, as I'm writing the story, in my best moments of writing, I get lost in Dominic. And I'm writing the story and I'm lost in Dominic. And then next he does this. And then he meets this girl. And then he's kind of nervous. And then he wants to ask. And and I'm writing the story. If I'm really good as an author, my focus will shift so much that I will become Dominic and forget who I really am. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
And as I forget all that I am, I can then desire something here. Because then I want something to happen here. And then, but where is the desire coming from? Really, there's no such thing as Dominic. I just made him up. and so the desire is always only coming from one place, right? Which is a desire for expression, a desire for a story where the hero does this thing and goes and makes a lot of money and wins the girl and I don't know what, right? But that's the desire. It's a story, it's an expression.
So going back, so I'm taking up everyone's time, aren't I? You spoke about focus. Basically, only focus. Am I misunderstanding what you said? Put your focus on what you want. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, who would do that? How could you, right? Because Lego figure can't. But here's the thing about that is today, because this, I want to bring a 3P part of it. Focusing on something is not something you do. It's what happens.
Okay, so that was my, because obviously the 3Ps tells you, please don't do anything.
Yeah, don't do it. So focusing happens. Focusing happens. Let's play how that happens. If you can't even use a simple example nowadays because of COVID, right? But I was going to say, you go to a Starbucks or a coffee shop, right? So we can't, but let's pretend we could. Right? So you go to a Starbucks, right? And you walk into the Starbucks, they've got music playing. There's noise behind the counter because of the, machines going on. And you've gone in and you're going to meet a friend. And so you see your friend over there, you order the coffee, sit down, and now you're seated talking to your friend and there's other people there and they're chattering and there's a lot of great stuff going on. And so lots of conversation, lots of noise. This music is playing up there and all those machines are going on in the background. Focus. What are you there to do? So notice what happens is I'm here for a conversation with my friend, brings focus to my attention. Some way, somehow, without doing anything, I'm able to hear my friend, right? And everything else is tuned out, but it's all available to me. But if you intend to have a conversation, this ability to focus is essential to it. Otherwise, you'll go in and have nothing but complaining of all the stuff that's going on. Like blaming them for that when really the problem is you couldn't focus. So it is in the focus is something that happens and we're doing it all the time. And so it's essential to creation.
But you don't do intentional focus.
Well, there is always intention. How could I walk into Starbucks and focus without intention? What would I focus on? If I sit in Starbucks and I listen to the music, I will then tune out those machines and I'm going to tune out the conversations around me. Without intention, there can be no focus.
Okay. Okay.
So the question is, what is it you want? That is essential. Right? What is it you want is really what's the intention, and it is really what chooses the focus.
Okay. Right. Okay. I'll take that.
Yeah. And in life, so now we bring in the co-creation bit. In life, what you want is it is an urge. This is again, all that you are wanting to express more of what you are through you. And how that's going to feel to you is desire. It's going to feel like desire. It's going to feel like wanting something.
Now I get you.
Yeah. And there you go. Now the question is, I have desire to experience abundance. I have desire to experience the difference I could make with people, to experience satisfaction. And so that focus, which is, it's not something you do, it's something you can notice or not notice, just be blind to it. Or some religious practices will tell you that's your problem right there, is your desire. You really need to quiet it down. Now you try to fight against it, by the way, losing battle. You can never eliminate desire. You can never eliminate. The only choice you have is to remove resistance, but not desire.
Right, this will be the last thing I say, I promise, folks. Just to sum it up, in my brain, my tiny little brain, are you saying it's basically our infinite essence of possibility is just wanting to express itself to its max through us?
Yes.
And we're just noticing it.
And you're noticing it. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. And your preference, by the way, your preference in that is something you notice. It's unique to you. Like, in other words, you're bored and you're like, I wanna go out and run. That it shows up as your desire, right? For someone else, it's like, I want to go play a game with my friends. So there's a uniqueness in the expression and the desire, like, because you could do any of that, but notice what yours keeps moving you to. If you walk into a bookstore and there's the magazine section and you find yourself going to that, and then you're looking at automotive, and why did you do that? I don't know. Why don't you go to home decor? I don't want to do that. Oh, there's this other with celebrities and stuff. Why don't you go over there and look at those magazines? I don't want to. Like, what is that is moving me here instead of there? You can notice it and get interested in it, because that is prompting you somewhere. This prompting you toward expression. It shows up as interest, shows up as desire, shows up as that urge. And that is the beginning of all creation.
Cool. Love that. Thank you.
I love that. Yeah, thanks, Paul. Yeah, that was really awesome. It feels to me like you're kind of saying that we're kind of creating the human experience, but we're also here to embrace it. That's what that feels like. I'm kind of hearing in that.
We are here to enjoy this life experience.
Yeah.
We're here to enjoy this life experience.
Yeah.
You don't need any of it. No. You don't need any of it. No matter how much money you make, you'll die. No matter if you live in a big house or a small house, at the end of the day, you'll die. And again, from the eternal part of you, you don't need any of it.
Yeah.
Why do you need it? You don't want it. It's like you can't take it. So what is that? Is a desire for the experience of it. Is a desire for the joy of it. And it may not be money that calls you. It may not be a house that calls you. What it may be is, no, I actually want to work with poor children in countries where they're starving. There's something calling me to do that. That's good too. That's a joyous experience as well. Yeah. Soldiers, you may want to, this will rub people the wrong way, but you may want to be a soldier who actually saves your whatever it is. And there's lots of people who will play that game with you, which is that they'll come here too, again, eternal beings who will come here and play the other characters for you.
Yeah. And that's what I think I meant by we're kind of playing in our human experience. It's like, it's fun to play with. So I love that. And Dickon actually said last week when he was on, he was saying we're formless dancing in form. And I love that, because it's like, well, yeah, we're just here to dance and we can embrace the short time that we have in these human bodies. Are you okay for time, Dominic? Because we've got a couple.
I'm okay. Yes. Yeah, I'm
Perfect.
fine.
Okay, Bria, I'm going to unmute you because you've raised your hand.
Okay. Hi,
Hey,
Dominic.
Bria, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Dominic and I talk a lot on Messenger and Facebook. I ask him questions all the time, and he answers. So now I get to do it live. Okay, back to when you first started, and you said about your business and about your clients and how you put no time or effort into, I don't know what it was, like bringing clients to you, or getting clients, like promoting or something like that. I guess I wanted to understand what you meant by that. You sort of said it, and then we went on.
Yeah.
What is it exactly you're doing? Something, but what is it you're doing or not doing?
Yeah. So yeah, what gets confusing about that is because you're right. There is something going on or something that's being done, but I just want to sort of so the energy of chasing to find is not there, right?
Okay.
So that like because what it is about that is, okay, well, I'll give you an Abraham quote. So you did not come here to create through action. You did not come here to create through action. You came here to create with your mind. You came here to create with your mind. You came here to create with your imagination. You are thinking what it is you want. And so because the power of creating with your mind, creating with thought, is actually the only real power there is. And action, the only potential of action, is to take that which is created and move it around. So you can't actually really create through action. What you can do with action is take that which has already been created and you can move it around. You can lift it up. You can take money from one bank account, move it into another bank account. This is what action will do. It can't actually create anything. So when it comes to, I need more clients, and you go after them with action, like I'm going to, have conversations and I'm going to get prospects, and I don't know what they do. They do funnels. They talk about a bunch of stuff, right? And then it's like to get these things. Then what you're doing is you are like finding stuff and moving it around. So I want to get those clients and bring them over here, and then they'll bring their money with them and like that. When you go the other way, which is to create with your mind and thought, then the what you want can come to you. The experience you want can be expressed through you.
Okay.
Action still happens. Action still happens, but it happens. It's hard for someone outside to see, because what happens is someone outside sees. I'll give you an example. In my business once, I had this issue where I had attracted so much that it was like I had these 40 VPs that I'm supposed to coach them 4 sessions each over the next few months. It's like a lot, right? And then I had a whole problem with, my God, this is, how am I going to schedule them and all of that? And then what happened was, it attracted, what I found was a solution, right? So but however, there was action in that. So a desire was there. A desire arose for something easier. I mean, I wanted this. I wanted the clients. I wanted all of that. But now all of a sudden I was left with a problem with, is this going to be a big, administrative nightmare? And so I didn't want that. And every time you do not want something, Abraham says this, is when you know what you don't want, you also know what you do want. And so the creation of what you want is actually showing up, being articulated in the focus on what you do not want. It is articulating what is wanted. And that what is wanted will come to you, as Sydney Banks said, first via thought. That's the first thing, is you are inspired with thought. But thought will lead to action. Thought will lead to words. So what you'll do is you will find yourself, oh, I think I should call someone from, I should call this person and just connect with them. You will find that will happen. And so then that will happen. And then that, when you're talking to them, it will lead to, so I found myself doing stuff which then led to a solution that I could use to solve my issue. So I don't know if that.
So what's the original thing you did then? Sorry. Like,
Okay.
what is the original thing?
If I take the coaching example, shortly after I got my coaching certification, all I became clear about, I became clear that I didn't want to do like sales meetings and all that stuff. Like I didn't want to meet people and talk to them and try and convince them. So I didn't know what to do. At that point, I didn't have an answer. I want a coaching business, but I don't like this idea of having these conversations with people or searching them out or finding them and trying to convince them to work with me, right? So what I did was I just trusted, I guess. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see how that gets worked out. And the actual story or real scenario was I found myself one morning, it was a beautiful Sunday, and I was sitting in the front of my house. The sun was shining, flowers. It was somewhere in the summer, flowers where it was fragrant, it was beautiful. And I sat out there and I was just journaling. I was reading. I don't know what I was doing, but notice the feeling. Just a great feeling, not striving for anything, not wanting anything. And then my phone, which happened to be nearby, an email comes in. I pick it up. And it's this email from some woman that I knew years ago. And it's a bit of a spam email. She sends this email. I met her it was an HR certification. She's a VP of HR somewhere, right? I guess she had me on a list of contacts. So I get this email, and it's some email about her daughter, and there's a concert going on, and it's obviously spammed out to everybody, right, on a contact list. And I pick that up and I look at it, and the daughter is some art thing that's amazing, right? It's a performance, and she's inviting if you want to go to this thing. So I pick it up, I look at it, I put it back down, and then in my mind, I kind of have, notice the feeling here. I have one thought which says, man, she just sent the spam everywhere and, all that stuff. So this is sort of like a negative sort of thought, right? And then another thought came. Which was, wow, how cool that is. I could see why she would be proud of this. Her child, who's, of a certain age, like this is actually a big deal, right? Like, because it is impressive what this was going to be and the performance this was. And as that thought came, I was inspired to, which was weird. I was like, I'm going to reply to this email. And so before I could think, I pick up my phone and I hit reply. And I'm like, I really acknowledged this achievement, and I acknowledged how great this was and how I felt she would be proud of this. I hit send and I put it away, and that was the end. At least I thought. Within 3 minutes, there's a reply. I pick up this phone, and this reply says, wow, Dominic, thanks for taking the time to send that. And thanks for realizing what a big deal this is for me. And yeah, you know what? I know I'm showing off, but I really am proud of what my daughter has done and like that. And she really expressed that, and it really hit her in terms of that acknowledgement. And her email ends with, by the way, what are you doing now? So I reply back. I said, well, I have my coaching certification. What I do is coaching, and this is just a few sentences. And I hit send and I reply. And again, 2 minutes later, reply comes back. Coaching. How interesting. Can you and I have breakfast next week? I want to talk to you about one of the VPs here because I think we need a coach for them. I want to learn more about what you're doing, right? So first coaching client in the corporate world, kind of client that I wanted. So how did I get that? That's the way I got it.
So it sounds like it was a combination of, you did have the intention that you wanted to be a coach, like you focused on,
I did.
right? And then
Strong desire.
you did enjoy. So you kind of focused on, you wanted to be a coach, you had the intention, and then you were doing things you enjoyed, and then you felt like wisdom was kind of coming out of you, guidance or inspiration or whatever.
And something arose, thought arose, inspiration arose. By the way, it really doesn't look connected, does it? If you're sitting out in the front doing this, how is that helping you build a coaching business? Aren't you just like wasting time? Shouldn't you be doing something?
Okay, then I have a question about that. What's the difference between that and people who do nothing and kind of don't get to where they want to be? Because you've heard of people like that, and I'm sure we've experienced it, where we do nothing. Like, we want to do something, but we do nothing. And then we end up a year later going, that didn't really work. I didn't do anything and nothing really came of that. And so what's the difference then?
So we're always creating. And so the preponderance of my attention and focus is on the absence of what I want versus what I do want. So how can that be? I want more money. I want a lot of money. And my attention is on that I don't have it. So that the universe does not hear what you say. The universe is not hearing what you say. The universe doesn't understand your words. The universe is responding to energy.
So if you're focusing on what you don't have, then that's the energy that's being created. So how do you focus on, if you want money and you don't have money, how do you not focus on the not having and focus on the having when you don't actually have it? This is always a little bit of a puzzle that comes up in.
Yeah. So what happens is you go to the essence of the desire.
Okay, what does that mean?
The essence of the desire is one of abundance. It's one of abundance, one of freedom. By the way, you can always get to essence by asking, why do I want what I want? You keep asking that several times. Sort of your path back to more what the desire, what is the pure desire, right?
Okay.
So in other words, why do I want what I want? I want it so I can be free. I want it. I want to experience abundance. I want to have choices. So you can get to the essence of that desire.
Okay.
And there is less resistance in the essence of the desire than there is in the specifics of it.
Okay.
So, for me to get $100,000, I don't know. I don't know how to do it. I don't know where it'll come from. I don't know who would give it to me. Like the specifics of it are really hard.
Right.
But when I get to the essence of it, which is, oh man, that would be such relief. That would be, I would have choices. I would have abundance. Now the essence part is very easy. And until I'm a match to that, it cannot manifest. I cannot see it in my experience. And so what gets tricky about this is I have to see it before I can believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly we go, I need to see the money. If I see the money, then I'll believe it. But the way this works is you have to believe it first. And so it's gentler is to go to the essence of it.
Okay.
I have abundance in my life. I have so many friends, I couldn't spend time with all of them. What an abundance that is. You know how many books I have that I'm not ever going to be able to read? Do you know if I'm interested in any subject, how many books are available? We live in a world with such overflowing abundance. It's unbelievable. What an abundance I am living in the middle of. So as I shift my focus to the essence of what I want and how it is actually already here, my focus is beginning to perceive that which I want. It's beginning to perceive it. It's beginning to experience it already, because it already is here. And so by already beginning to experience it, what you focus on can manifest more and more. So there's something about beginning to find the smallest bit of evidence about it,
Okay.
and that evidence will grow. And if you can't do that, I know some people are really, and like me, are really stuck on something, right? Like I've been, whatever example they might be, either the fact about clients, for some it might be an issue of a relationship. I've wanted to be in one and I can't be, and I haven't found one. Like, so they're really, really stuck in that. Then the best thing you could do is ignore it. Get off the subject. Because if you get off the subject, you are no longer activating the absence of the thing that you want.
I guess, does it come back to almost seeing that we're everything that we want to be until we think we're not? Going back to the principles, in a way, that's what that speaks to me about.
Yeah. That is right. That possibility is there, but from the amount of thinking that is keeping me in the absence of it, my degree of focus or thinking and attention on its absence is keeping me stuck there, and it only continues to bring me evidence of its absence.
Yeah, and I think what you said as well, what I was hearing from it anyway, was it's almost like you're deeply listening to that feeling of desire and kind of finding yourself acting or moving before you could think. It's almost like it's from a place of inspiration, and I found that very much kind of recently with a program that I was creating. It's the Self-Rediscovery Foundations program that I've been creating, is that I was just kind of finding myself move to creating it, and I'd kind of got this focus and this desire to create something that brought people together and kind of, but then how it got created was kind of it just happened. And that's why I kind of frame this summit on kind of unraveling a life we love, because it feels like it's kind of an unraveling rather than a doing, in a way.
That's a beautiful example as well of why the co-creation part is so important. If you picture that same thing that you talked about, if you picture it as you had a thought, like an inspiration about this program, a particular program.
Yeah.
And then the next morning you woke up, the program was there, the website was there, all the guests were booked, everything was done. There you go, Nicole. That's what you asked for. Here it is. How satisfying is that for you?
Yeah, it's totally different to how I used to work, as I used to just push everything. And so I'm really seeing this kind of in action, and it's amazing. So
well, but pause for a second. Let me be clear.
Yeah.
If you think something and it shows up the next morning, what's the degree of satisfaction you can have?
How do you mean?
I'll suggest it's almost none.
Yeah. Yes.
I want a coaching business.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning I wake up, my business is done, the website is up, 20 clients are booked, I'm ready, I look at my calendar, the calls are done.
Yeah, because
what I'm going to suggest is there's no satisfaction in that.
Yeah, I love
we
that.
are co-creating with source. We are co-creating with infinite intelligence. All of your so you will be in action. Let me tell you, you'll be in action. You'll be researching websites. You'll be working with a creator. You'll be putting it together because there is satisfaction in that. When you ask, it is given. That's the title. When you ask, it is given. But the full story is that the universe will give. The universe can never give anything to you, like assert it. The universe can never give you something like give it to you. You can only allow it through you.
Mm.
What you ask, you can allow to be expressed through you. It
Yeah.
will not be handed to you from outside.
Yeah.
So you will be completely involved in it. You will be moved to words. You will be moved to action. You will be involved in its creation. Because unless you are, there's no satisfaction.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. There's a couple more questions. Tara Jane, did you want to come on and unmute yourself? Because I know you had your hand up for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even remember what I said there. I think it was the co-creation bit about like where it just gets a bit tricky whenever like, because I'm in the middle of this now with the 3Ps, and it's like there's nothing to do. And sometimes I think that can feel a little bit powerless for people that are a little bit stuck, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm kind of curious about I was talking to someone last weekend about changing the narrative. Like if we know something that's not true, but we've lived with it and we've bought into it for such a certain length of time, it's kind of stuck. And then the whole nothing to do is kind of like, it's just there until it's not anymore. But I can see for me how changing the narrative, which is maybe a co-creation of what you do want, is a lot more helpful. Does that make sense?
I get it. I get it. And the watch out there, and 3P is useful about this, is watch out the engineering thought. Kind of like playing in thought to engineer it. I don't know if you are you able to do any just a little bit more specific about I want something, then there's a narrative that says I don't, or I don't know, something.
Well, yeah, I mean, I may as well be honest. It's just I am doing practitioner training with one of the other coaches to be a 3P, and this is what I know I want to do, but because my habit is like negative self-talk maybe, or like you're not good enough, but through going through this whole thing, it's like I know that that's kind of bullshit. Like I know that that's not me.
Got it.
You see what I mean?
Yeah. So then
narrative is like a little bit more co-creative and helpful.
So here's the thing. So then this is the engineering part that I'm talking about, which won't serve you, right?
Yeah.
So you start to notice a narrative, which is a practiced thought or belief for a while. A belief is a thought you keep thinking, right?
Right.
So whatever that is, that I don't know, what is yours? Like I can't do this. I've never done something like this. No one will want. Like I don't know, whatever that might be.
I think it's just a habit, really, but I know it's not true. It's very hard to explain.
But I get it. But that is all
about a little egoic mind or whatever, conditioned thinking. The ego is kind of like at you all the time.
Which is to say what? Whatever it says is something against the desire.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, here's the trouble to say, I'm going to get a new narrative. When I get a new narrative, so what you're doing is you are now focusing on that.
Right.
And you are going to fight it.
Mm.
And here's the deal, because there's something there which is by the feeling of it, because it doesn't feel good, what it tells you is that there is thinking. Anytime the feeling is, I'm going to call it dissonant, disharmonious, what that information in the feeling is that my thinking I'm currently thinking in opposition or resistance to my desire. I am thinking in against myself. It's the reason I feel bad.
You mean the new narrative is going against?
I didn't say anything about a new narrative. We're
Okay.
still on the first one, right?
Okay. Yeah. That is exactly that's
Yeah.
exactly true.
Yeah.
It's resistant to what I want.
To what I want.
Yeah.
So any engagement with it will perpetuate it.
Right.
So that's the part.
Okay.
So any engagement with it will just further perpetuate it. I'm going to take this and turn it around. I'm going to change the story in it. I'm going to re-engineer it to tell me how great I am and how I'm able to do it. All engagement with that will simply perpetuate it.
Right. Okay. I just have another quick question while I'm on here. May as well just throw it out there.
Well, although we didn't solve we didn't solve that. Because it's still there. So what is it if I'm not going to engage with it and turn it around, right? Is that the energy will move in the direction of desire. So how can I put focus rather toward desire? And you can tell by the feeling where your attention is. So as I put feeling or attention on thought that is in alignment with desire, see, that's my inner wisdom guiding me. So it's like, well, I'm getting a certification though. It's kind of cool. Not everyone gets a certification. Not everybody is trained like this.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I've got real commitment. Because most people don't do this. Most people don't commit like this. Right away, you could see that. So notice what I did. I'm not trying to change this narrative at all. I am looking for evidence that feels better. I am focusing on what feels better to me. I'm not going to touch that narrative.
Right.
Engagement with it will keep me stuck there.
Yeah. Okay.
And whatever you give attention to, law of attraction will make it more. So whatever you give attention to, law of attraction will bring more like it, and bring more like it, and bring more like it. So as you would give attention to a thought that feels better, you will get more thinking in that same frequency. So as I give attention to thought that is aligned to my desire, more thinking on my desire will come. Michael Neal said, when you look in a direction, wisdom flows in that direction. It's the joke for us, and it was what he would say is, this is why coaches aren't getting a lot of insights about plumbing. My plumbing doesn't work, and I don't know what the hell's wrong with it. And he says, yeah, coaches don't tend to get a lot of insight about plumbing because they're not looking in that direction. So because you're looking in the direction of coaching, that's where your insights come. So when you look in the direction of desire, more insight comes, more wisdom comes. And it feels good. When you're getting thinking in opposition to that, you're looking in the wrong direction.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. That makes, and I guess the opposite is true too. Like negative. I think someone else mentioned about anxiety or whatever, anxious thinking and all that kind of stuff. This is a curious one for me too, and I really don't want to take up any more time, but I'm curious about negative thinking and like symptoms and things, right? So I can be out on a walk and think, oh, I haven't seen those floaters in my eyes for like months now. And then all of a sudden, that's all I can see, right? And like heart palpitations, things like that, that would be the same. I'd be like, as soon as I bring them into my awareness. So that's just the bit that I'm really curious about. It's like bringing things into your consciousness, and good and bad, right?
Well, good for you in terms of notice how quickly you can manifest.
Right.
You're powerful. A lot of people would take a while, but you can manifest them like that.
Sadly, I tend to go for the manifesting the things I don't want.
But that's good to know too.
Right.
So you are
Right.
a powerful creator. You can place your attention on something and very quickly, with very little resistance, you can get evidence for it. Isn't that good to know? You're amazing. So
Wow.
just be pickier about what you're focused on.
Right. Gotcha. Thank you very much.
You might want to care more about what you place attention on.
Yes, I
You
do.
might prefer more what you place attention on. And you don't have to. You can just randomly place your attention anywhere. You're a powerful creator. It will manifest for you, and just enjoy it. But if you're not enjoying it, then be picky.
I will. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for the question.
Thank you very much.
I love that, Dominic, and it's really funny because I've been kind of playing with that since I heard you speak on it as well. And today it was really funny because I was really excited for this call about manifestation, and then suddenly this book arrived all about manifestation. I was like, wow, that was good. Nice. One I hadn't ordered, it just like appeared in front of me. So
weird. Yeah, weird. That's great.
I know. I was like, cool. I think Paul's got his hand up, and is that okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Sorry, me again. One very, very last question is carrying on from Tara Jane, actually. She's put a thought in my head. This is really personal. I'm obviously in the UK. I work for an airline, and basically they're making something like 4,000 of us redundant. And I'm just waiting to hear if I'm one of the ones that have been made redundant or not. It's like a tombola. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I want to carry on working for the airline. I love the job. I'm really good at it. There's no other option for me. I'm not thinking negative at all about it as well. As far as I'm concerned, it's the only option for me. Not that there's a doing involved, but I presume I've got no negative thinking about it at all. That is the best way to approach it, I presume, yeah? Am I wrong?
Yeah, there's something to this will get this is important to note too. The more I get attached to specifics in the creation, the less open I am to possibility, right? Because you take the pure desire from formless, right? Could the desire, whatever that desire is, can be expressed in so many ways. There's so many ways to express and experience what the essence of that desire is. But I get it into my head what that way is. So I feel some desire for abundance, and then I translate the energy of that into what that means is I need to have $1 million and this kind of a business. And now what I've done is I have now limited possibility. It's only if I attach to that, right? So to go to your specific example, right? So this stuff's happening, there's redundancies going on, and you notice that you really enjoy working for this airline and you enjoy the work that you do. Yeah. So the watch out is, because you can easily get to, oh my God, what am I going to do if I get not? What happens if I lose this role? What happens if I can't be in this with this organization? So you can easily hit that the more you're attached to a specific. But really, you want to back up more generally into the, wow, sounds like, and if you and I had a conversation, I'd be asking you, wow, sounds like you really love what you do. What is it you love about what you do? What really satisfies you about what you do? What do you love about this organization? What makes this organization such a beautiful, harmonious fit for you? And when you start to move attention onto that, which is less specific and more energetic, more feeling of it, the possibilities to express and experience that, do not limit them by keeping this one job with this company as the only way that you could do it. That may be a perfect way to do it, but do not think that infinite intelligence could not deliver at least 20 ways for you to express and experience that same essence.
Well, my desires for the company aren't very high at the moment, but my actual role within the company is that's what my desire is my passion. And yeah, I mean, I'm kind of cool and open-minded. I'm not in panic mode whatsoever. So I've kind of zoomed out. I go, okay, well, cool. Okay, well, maybe this is life showing me there are other things in the world that I could possibly do, but I really would like to carry on doing what I'm doing. But I'm open to the suggestion of widening my view.
Yes, and don't be open to, and this is always the case, that you have many desires. In other words, the desires around this role, this job, fit into other desires for how I want my life to be, that fit into other desires around the relationships I want and what I eventually want to do and how much traveling I want to do. So there's this whole mess of desires. I call a mess. It's a blend, right? It's this blend of desires. And so there is, and wisdom leads you by the path of least resistance to the fulfillment of all that you want. So if you've ever had happen to you in life, and all of you have, where you lost a job, and when you look back on it, you'd say, oh my God, I am so grateful for that to have happened to me. But you only know that later, because then what you notice is that the more desires were fulfilled in a more perfect way. And that's what wisdom leads you to. It's leading you in that way. And so be open in a case like this. First of all, you don't know what's going to happen, so that's fine. You remain, hopeful and whatever. It's a great company. You love it. You love your role. But if anything does happen, it's like, I'm still open. That doesn't discount anything that I want. There isn't anything in this which is miscreating. That would be a big mistake. It's like, oh my God, I must have messed this up. No.
Yeah. So there's basically wisdom behind whatever the outcome is. It's led by wisdom. It may not be what I think it should be, but I'm being led by wisdom.
You're always being led by wisdom, by the path of least resistance, which means around the beliefs that you have, and the path always feels good.
Yeah.
The path will always feel good.
Yeah. Okay.
So I get that's the leaning toward.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
The next thing. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Awesome.
That was so cool. Yeah, no, definitely. And I really hear what you say there, Dominic, about kind of it's, for me, it feels like the only way, well, first off, I lost my job and that redirected me to do what I'm doing now. So that's very much true for me. But also every time I've kind of had what I would term success, I guess, in my business is when I've kind of enjoyed the focus of something without an attachment to the outcome and kind of just stayed open to whatever shows up. And yeah, so that feels real. And it also feels very much like you're saying, kind of deeply listen to that feeling of desire and play in it and just stay open to what might show up as well. But with focus. So yeah, amazing, thank you. I'm definitely going to be listening to this one again in the replay. I think that was all the questions, so so thank you very much. Thank you for sharing today. It's been really, really a fun conversation. I knew it was going to be a fun conversation. So thank you.
I've enjoyed it too, and thanks everyone who was on and for your engagement with the questions and stuff. It's helpful to make it more real and practical. So Thanks a lot.
For sure. Is there anything that you're working on at the moment that you love to share with us?
I'll be doing I'm facilitating with Rudy and Jules, if Kennard, if you know them. I'll be doing something with them on the weekend of May 16th, whatever that is. There's a program. You'll find it on my timeline if you're on Facebook. And so I love it because we kind of connected, I guess, attracted each other, because Rudy and Jules have sort of, Rudy Kennard he's the guy behind the Three Principles movies and, like that kind of thing. He's a facilitators in 3P, but he's begun to move. They happen to be moving in this direction around, wait a minute, what's the holisticness of all of this? How do you take some of this stuff and, as opposed to saying, well, that's wrong, but this is right, how do you really look at what's true about all of it? And so they were going in this direction about looking at law of attraction and three principles and non-duality and blending it. And so we'll be doing this program, and then I'm facilitating the module around manifestation and creation with them. So
amazing. Oh, that's really cool. And if you've got any of the links, then I'm happy to kind of share those as well. So just send me those and I'll pop them in with the replay as well, so people can check that out.
I'll do that. Yeah. And anybody, please reach out and just connect with me on Facebook. You can, all that, and you'll find my website there and all that. It's under my about. So, and if you want to reach out to me directly, go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I'll share that link as well. So yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, really fun. Thank you. I'm just going to make an announcement quickly. So if you need to go, that's fine. I'm just going to be sharing about the next speaker that we have. So yeah, it's up to you whether you want to stay and listen or disappear. But thank you for your time. It's been really fun.
I'll stay. I want to hear about it.
Cool. So next Friday, we have at the same time, we're going to be exploring with Rahini Ross. He's here to share all about how we can rewild our relationships to the natural state of love. So Rahini is a coach and licensed marriage and family therapist, and a contributor to Thrive Global. She's been working with couples to help them reduce conflict and discord in their relationships. So yeah, it's going to be a really fun one about relationships. We also have coming up the lovely Judy Sedgman and Bill Pettit. So I'm going to be announcing those very soon as well. So yeah, there's lots more people coming on, and I've obviously got my exciting new program that's actually launched today. So if people still want to join, there's still a couple of spots left. And yeah, the first live is on Thursday. So it's a self-rediscovery school. So that's all about kind of getting a foundational grounding in the principles and seeing that we are wisdom and seeing who we are, exploring who we are at least. And from that is kind of, for me, I see this kind of foundation to then play in this humanness and this human desire and it creating what we want to create. And yeah, so all of that is going on as well. So if you're interested in that, just reach out. But yeah, any questions, I'm always here to answer them as well. So yeah, that's it really. And thank you guys for being here. And thank you very much, Dominic. It's been really fun.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Great to meet you.
Cheers. Thank you.